Black is black and I'm black, y'all. All right, so I usually hear two books as reference, usually when I ask most black men or women what books it was that awakened them to black consciousness. You hear the miseducation of the Negro, African origins of civilization, destruction of black civilization, as well as the autobiography of Malcolm X. You can also add Message to the Black Man by Elijah Muhammad to that list. Now, I would credit the Message to the Black Man and the autobiography of Malcolm X. Message to the Black Man was written by Elijah Muhammad, and Alex Haley's writings on Nation of Islam member Minister Malcolm X. Now, you fast forward 40 years, because Message to the Black Man was written in 1973, 46 years ago. Now, we all know the story, the splintering of the Nation of Islam by first Malcolm X leaving, and then second Clarence 13X, or better known as Father Allah of the 5% Nation of Gods and Earths, splintered and left as well. Now, is it a coincidence? But I am thoroughly convinced rogue members of the Nation of Islam had both men assassinated. That's just my humble opinion. Some consider it an in house matter turned deadly, and others say it reveals the gangster mentality of members of the Nation of Islam, who were all mostly ex cons, robbers, rapers, murderers, and who Elijah Muhammad, and felt as though their positions of money and power were threatened by Malcolm X, who many assumed would take over for Elijah. If Malcolm was elevated to the NOI leader, he would replace them from their cushy positions. So they fostered a toxic environment that came to a head at the Autobahn Ballroom. Many of us suspect Farrakhan was the one who gave the word. He almost even admitted as much by saying he helped foster that environment by making certain articles in Muhammad Speaks, which was the early version of the Final Call, and in public speaking engagements called for the tongue and the head of Malcolm X to be bought and presented to Elijah Muhammad. Word came out that it was the New Jersey Mosque, gangsters out of that mosque. So, now as far as Father Allah goes, they say he was killed on some street shit. They say he was a hustler, he was a gambler, he owed money, he was out at the wrong time, and the shit caught up to him. Bullshit. I say it was also rogue NOI members, mad at the rise and the influence of Clarence 13X and the 5% Nation of Gods and Earth, who many thought he should have never taken the lessons outside of the mosque of the Nation of Islam, to be displayed in such a negative light. Now, do these lessons stand the test of time? I say they do. I say that the lessons do stand the test of time. However, the leaders don't. So, with the flaws of the leaders, does it make their works any less relevant? That's why you're supposed to listen and follow the word, not the man, because the man will fall short every time. One statement that definitely rings true in concerns of the Nation of Islam: don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. In this regards, the baby would be the information, and the bathwater would be the leaders, the corrupt leaders of the Nation of Islam. Now, the flow of information that came from the Nation of Islam, it came from Arab and African immigrants in the early 1900s. It's obvious that Noble Drew Ali and Elijah Muhammad got their lessons from Fard Muhammad. I would even go on to say, without much risk, that Fard Muhammad wrote the problem book of the Nation of Islam, as well as the Circle 7 Quran for Noble Drew Ali. Those that have read both know the similarities. And for that fact, that means, he's also responsible for the supreme wisdom lessons, which are the foundation of the 120 lessons of the nation of gods and earths. Father Law added the supreme mathematics, the supreme alphabet with some actual and solar plus degrees. But most of this information came from Fard Muhammad. Now, what a lot of outsiders don't understand is the Nation of Islam and Fard, they taught esoteric Islamic masonry. See, a lot of y'all coming out, oh, Elijah was a Mason and all. Who didn't know that? The members of the NOI were too militant for Christianity. That turn of the cheap variety. Fard Muhammad was a Shriner who taught Elijah masonry. And Islam was the chosen vehicle in which to indoctrinate black men under. Having your surname replaced by an X is tantamount to becoming an apprentice of the first degree in the lodge. Wouldn't be much different. Now, what intrigued me about Islam? Why did I convert and become a Muslim, a black Muslim? First of all, it let men be men. It promoted and supported masculinity and a strong nuclear family. Unlike the Christian church, where the pastor's job is to indoctrinate the congregation with passiveness and obedience to God and government. Islam was the spark of spiritual revolutionary thought for black men in America. I said spiritual revolutionary thought. You know, we were all converted to Christianity and slavery, but few like Nat Turner taught the truth in the Bible. Remember, one thing you definitely must take into account for real context is some of the splintering in the Moorish Science Temple, you have to remember, is because when Noble Drali was arrested, he left Fard Muhammad in charge of the Moorish Science Temple. So the black members had a problem with the non-black man being in control. Now, the big conspiracy about Fard Muhammad was he was a white man, or he was an Arab, or an Indian. I say it's possible he was all three, all of the above, or one of them. I, myself, believe he was an Indian from India who was a Muslim, also a high ranking Mason. The majority of the population in India is Muslim. Most people laugh. The God of the black man is an Arab or a white man, or the God of the black man is an Indian. It's not that simple. Is the truth any less true because there was a non-black man who gave it to us? Does that type of information solely have to come from a black man? Why would an Arab or an Indian give us lost and forbidden information that would free ourselves? Because you got to look at the times in the 1910s, 20s, 30s, during the Second World War, the First and Second World War. This is the time of the World Wars. Other countries realized the advantage America had with the black population, much like the Summer Olympics. You see the medals, track and field, basketball, things like that. Most of these medals were won by black African Americans. And surely that didn't escape Adolf Hitler. in the Berlin Olympics, where he said America wouldn't win any medals without its Negroes. The Moorish Science Temple, the Nation of Islam, and the 5% Nation is black mysticism. And there's nothing wrong with that. If white people have white mysticism and Indians have Indian mysticism, blacks should have the same thing as well. I actually think it's more profound that it would be a man from a different race that would tell black men the truth. You got to remember, these different races are jockeying for world dominance, and they see that they have to pry away some of the black men from America. Everybody saw the importance of converting the black man out of Christianity in order to make him an ally. Remember, the enemy of my enemy is what? If not my friend, at least a potential ally. The Moorish Science Temple and the Nation of Islam radicalized the minds of black men. Even though Jesse Jackson and Martin Luther King and the Christian Church of the South was really credited with the victory of forcing the Civil Rights Act by the White House, I believe it was really, the Nation of Islam that forced America's hand. But they'll never admit that. That's why they say, hey, Martin, come on over here and we're going to let you be here when we sign things. They didn't want Elijah and Malcolm and them there. Because then that would have let us know that radicalization, that shit right there, it worked. So they wanted us to only adhere to the passive. That's why they gave all the credit to the Christians and Martin. I'm going to read, maybe if I can fit it in there, a paragraph, which is still relevant today, from Message to the Black Man. Now listen to this. First, love yourself. One of the greatest handicaps among the so-called Negroes is that there is no love for self, nor love for his or her own kind. This not having love for self is the root cause of hate and dislike, disunity, disagreement, quarreling, betraying, stool pigeons, and fighting and killing one another. How can you be loved if you have not love for self and your own nation and dislike being a member of your own? Then what nation will trust your love and membership? You say of yourself, I love everybody. This cannot be true. Love for self comes first. The Bible, the book that you claim to believe, says, love the brotherhood. 1 Peter 2:17. Love one another. John 15:17. Love of self comes first. The one who loves everybody is the one who does not love anyone. This is the false teaching of the Christians. For the Christians war against other Christians. They have the Bible so twisted by adding in and taking out of the truth that it takes only God, or one whom God has given the knowledge of the book, to understand it. The Bible puts more stress upon the love of thy neighbor than the love for the brother. So the moral of the story is, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Get the information that's pertinent, that's important, and get the fuck out of Dodge. Don't follow no man. Fuhrer. Breaking tonight, fear at